Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, back at it again with another Minecraft video, and today we're gonna take a more in-depth look into extracurricular activities. If you guys are new here, hi, my name's Lordrick, currently a senior in high school, and you can follow me on Instagram at lordrick.filsote. So I've been getting a lot of questions in the comments and DMs from people asking about how to get more involved with extracurricular activities and how to even find them in the first place. And so I thought it would be a good idea to make a video on that because obviously extracurricular activities are going to be a really big part of your college applications. I also need more video ideas. And what I think is interesting is that a lot of the people who have been asking me those questions are applying from outside the United States. I live in the United States, which means I applied as a domestic applicant, and the college application process is a little bit different for domestic applicants, and I don't really have a lot of experience with the international college application process, so I brought along someone who does.
Hi, I'm Oscar. I'm a future JHU, Duke, or UC Berkeley class of 2024. So I'm going to share my experience as an international student studying in engineering and computer science. So we are going to release a two-series video. Part 1 will be sharing our major related activities and how you can build yours to make you stand out. Part 2 will be kind of show a polarity in your college application to kind of show another side of you to make you further stand out by having some of your personal interest related activities. So both type of activities are essential, so make sure you follow both of this video to benefit the most.
In my experience, schools offer more extracurricular activities that aren't academic related, like sports, music, or art. And so if you're a high school student that already has an idea of what kind of field of study you want to pursue in college, it may be harder for you to find activities that can align with your interests. So today, Oscar and I are going to share our experiences with extracurricular activities that relate to our intended majors. And if you're interested in advice related to extracurricular activities that aren't related to your intended major, go check out Oscar's channel for a video on that. So just to preface, Oscar and I are just high school seniors. We aren't admissions officers by any means. A lot of what we will be going over today comes from our own thoughts and speculations, so take everything we say with a grain of salt. With that being said, let's get on with it. So one way of going about looking for these kinds of extracurricular activities is by thinking about whatever pre-existing interests you may already have, which in this case would be related to your major, and looking for opportunities where you can expand on those interests further. So for me, I knew that I wanted to study linguistics or international relations, and this comes from my long-standing interest in foreign languages, which I talked about more in my Brown supplemental essays. So my high school only offers Spanish classes, and I wanted to look for opportunities to study foreign languages outside of that kind of classroom setting. So after some research, I found out about NISLY, which is a study abroad program funded by the US State Department. And basically they send students to a lot of different countries to study critical languages. And I thought it was really interesting, so I applied. And after several rounds of further applications and interviews, I got in, which meant that I got to study in Jeonju, South Korea for 7 weeks last summer. And so my advice for finding extracurricular activities that relate to your intended major is that sometimes it's as simple as just looking for them. If you're interested in studying economics, for example, you can look for things like the National Economics Challenge or FBLA. And if you're interested in something like computer science, there are a lot of local hackathons that you could get involved with. I know that a lot of schools may not offer classes on things like economics or computer science, but if you're able to take that initiative and look for opportunities on your own, I think that will go a really long way in your college applications.
But say if you don't have a definite interest and you don't know where to start, I would like to use kind of my experience to guide you through. This is what I called identify the gap sort of type of activity. You can think of this activity as sort of like a problem solving type of activity, but in this case, instead of given a problem, you are solving this on pen and paper, you are in real life, in practical activity, you are actively searching out for a problem that you could maybe use your expertise to solve the problem. To help you guys to get a better sense, I will just give some of my example of how I identify a problem and then use my expertise to solve a problem, and this will become one of my major, if not biggest, activity on my college application. So at that time of the schools, I realized that a lot of my friends and also a majority of students aren't happy with their school life, majorly because of peer pressure and a lot of schoolwork and also high expectation from our parents. And I also realized that with this comes an increasing trend of people getting mental health issues. And I also realized that our local psychological consulting center does not provide an adequate support to us, the students, and we are beginning to feel a sense of stigma when we are trying to say that we are not okay. So seeing this, I realized that I could maybe utilize my own expertise, which lies in computer science and software engineering, to maybe build a robot or a virtual friend to simulate what a psychological consulting would do and basically provide some basic care to students and hopefully can reduce the pressure overall. So this is the point where I find out a problem and then I try to brainstorm if I could use my own expertise to solve the problem.
And so last summer I went to Jeonju, South Korea with 19 other high school students from around the country. And in addition to studying the Korean language, we also toured a lot of the different cultural sites in South Korea, like visiting different temples and museums to learn more about Korean culture and history. And once you find programs related to whatever you want to study, chances are you'll also find other programs that are very similar. So in addition to NISLY Y, there are other programs like CBYX, Yes Abroad, AFS. They're all study abroad programs with different focuses, but they all help you study foreign languages while learning more about the history and culture of wherever you're studying.
Research is not only important in helping you to find the program that you're interested or the summer school that you're looking for. It can also help you to transform your idea into reality. So for example, given a problem, you want to fully understand the situation or the problems that you are dealing with. So I would recommend that you can start with some research engine or some research platform that you can see how other expertise are doing. You can check through Google Scholar or Sci-Hub or GitHub if you are a computer science student, or any other kind of open source repository that allows you to obtain some of the documents that current practitioners are working on, so you too can get a better sense of what this problem is and how you can better solve it. Once you understand through reading this kind of academic journal or academic papers, you could either start doing your own research and publish into your own research paper, or you could start to transform that theory into actual projects that are being used. The key thing is you try to make your project as useful as possible, because at the end of the day, you're trying to make the people use your product or use your creation to help better their lives. So keeping things simple and useful is the biggest impact. To illustrate, we can use my last example of how I use technology to help depression students. So I started to look through some of the existing scholarly papers of how can I build a virtual chatting system, in which we refer to as chatbots, to help students. Once I understand how can I actually build a chatbot, I started to apply that creation to suit my own problem. So what I did is I started to collect a large amount of data from our local psychological center and then feed that data into my robot so it can learn to talk like a psychological consultant. In this way, I learned to not only apply that knowledge into actually creation, but also make that creation suited to my own need. And by combining these two things, you're able to create a project or a activity that is completely unique and help you to stand out as an applicant. So in conclusion, research, research, research. Once you understand how it works for research, you're basically good to implement your ideas into reality.
And something that you could do to show the importance of your activity and help it stand out in your college application is by adding different dimensions to it. What I mean by that is, for example, looking at your activity from a different perspective from how it's usually perceived. So in my case, and what I've heard online and from other people, is that study abroad programs, especially ones that are service related, often get looked at as kind of like vacations. So in my essays, I really emphasized on the point of this program being really good for me academically because I was able to pursue something that I was interested in, learning foreign languages. to as deep of a level as I wanted without having to worry about tests or grades like I would in a traditional classroom setting. Because there were tests, but they weren't really the big focus, because the major focus was more on being able to communicate in the target language, which is something that really appealed to me. So I think that my point on learning for the sake of learning was something that really appealed to my schools, especially to schools like Stanford and Brown, where intellectual vitality is so important. So in that regard, I would say that it's less about the specific activity you're doing and what exactly you're doing, and more about how it's related to your interests and why.
Another way you can add dimension to your activity is simply to incorporate 2 or more knowledge from different fields into your own activity. For example, I was creating a chatbot that could help depression students. So I am incorporating knowledge of engineering, computer science, and also psychology. Let's say if you are majoring in econ or economics, you could either incorporate math or sociology into your own activity. Or let's say if you are majoring in art, you could either incorporate computer-aided design, which is computer science, and also engineering into your own activity to spice up the game. In sum, you are trying to show that you are not only good at one field of study, but you are also interested or curious at other field of study, which makes you a stronger applicant overall.
And going off my earlier point about adding dimension to your activity, I think something even more important than that is showing the impact of your activity. Because I think it's one thing to be able to talk about all your awards and accomplishments in whatever activity it is, but it's even more important to show how that activity has contributed to your growth as a person, as well as to your surrounding community. Because I think even if you do an activity that may seem more common and less impressive, if you're able to really highlight the impact of that activity, I think it goes a really long way. In my case, I think that my time with NISLE really helped me increase my level of cross-cultural understanding between the US and South Korea, which gave me a more global perspective on a lot of different things. And with that increased level of intercultural understanding, I was really able to engage with my surroundings more. And that looked like sharing my experiences with people both in South Korea and in the United States. So with my friends in Korea, I was able to share different sides of American culture that they weren't familiar with. And with my American friends, I was able to share with them sides of Korean culture that they weren't familiar with. And so while the program helped me gain a better understanding of different cultures, it also helped me share my experiences with other people, which I think is really important for any activity you do.
Now that you have finished your little project, it's time to actually share it with your community and actually put it into use. One way to impact is simply to share it and within your little community and simply get feedback. In order to broaden your impact, you can choose to do public speaking, which me and Lodrick have been heavily participate in our high school career, or you could choose other form of media to boost your content. For example, writing through art or through social media. So essentially, you try to find a media that allows you to share your project to your targeted audience. Hot take is you're trying to use different kind of medium to maximize your impact.
And lastly, what I think is most important is being able to relate your activities to whatever theme you're trying to present through your college applications. So as I talked about in my Stanford essays, my theme was about communication on different levels, whether it be interpersonal, intercultural, or even intrapersonal. And I think in that case, it was pretty easy for me to be able to relate my activities to my intended major to that theme. And so while your major doesn't necessarily have to connect to the theme you're trying to present, I think that if you can do it well, it's really effective.
So the way that I connected with my story is very similar to what Lodrick had did. So basically what my common application essay is about is the transition of how I was previously a very scientific guy who was just trying to make pure discovery, transitioning into more of a community type of person who care less about scientific discovery, but more on the actual impact, the implementation of technology to a small community. For example, using the fact that I'm able to use my technology to help a small set of people really echoes my main story of trying to use technology to help people, and I think really reinforce my overall story and profile. And I think that is what really packs the punch to the admission officer and made me stand out from the rest of the applicants.
So that was a little bit more about our extracurricular activities, and I hope it was helpful for you guys in some way. So if you guys would like more on extracurricular activities that don't necessarily relate to your major, please be sure to check out Oscar's video for that. I'll leave a link in the description, so be sure to check it out. Oscar and I have never done a video collab like this before, so there are a lot of things that we are still trying to figure out. So if you guys have any feedback for us, please leave a comment down below because that would be super helpful for us. And I think that's going to do it for today's video, so please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to check out Oscar's channel. That's all for today, folks, so I'll see you next time. Bye!